training, which has happened to you before and happens to a lot of fighters, does that indicate some laxness, some lack of focus on your part?
See, you must understand the fact that was just blown out of proportion about me getting knocked down. I never got knocked down in training. You know what I mean? I've trained and I didn't have great sessions and everything. You know, that's normal when training. Things like that happen. But like I said, you know what I mean, two guys fought that night and he had a better night.
Buster, usually Mike establishes his dominance very early in the fight. Could you see anything different in the first round, second, third rounds, that he knew suddenly that he wasn't going to be dominant? Could you sense anything or see anything in his eyes?
No, because he continued to come in. He continued to, you know, make his attack. He never stopped fighting. It was nothing that I seen that where, you know, I felt that I was in control. You know, I felt, if anything, in the 8th round, I started admiring my work, admiring the fact that I was in there, you know, doing so well and got caught with a shot. I had a little relaxed moment, and I think it cost me for that knockdown. But other than that, no, I never sensed seeing how Mike was, you know, had started faltering, because he was strong throughout the fight. He took good shots and he kept fighting. Never once, you know, seemed to be where he was giving up.
Now we want to show you some startling footage. Footage that shows that history repeats itself and that the 10 count isn't what any of us thought it was, and until now had no reason to question. September 22nd, 1927, Soldier Field, Chicago. The rematch of the champion Gene Tunney and Jack Dempsey, a part of the mythology of boxing. Because Dempsey had hovered over decked opponents throughout his career, a new rule was in force. When a fighter was knocked down, the count would begin only when the other fighter goes to a neutral corner. Dempsey dropped Tunney in the 7th round, but forgot the new rule. So the referee properly picked up the count late. Tunney barely got up at 9. Looking closely at the controversy, Dempsey surely put Tunney down with a vicious combination. By failing to go to the neutral corner, the clock shows that the referee's count begins at 5 seconds. The crucial sidelight to this controversy is that at the count of 4, Tunney is clearly looking at the referee, ready to continue. 9 seconds of real time had elapsed on the clock. The clear-headed Tunney could have gotten up and gone on. He went on to win the decision. But for a long time, people believed that but for Dempsey's goof, he would have recaptured the title.
What about that Gene Tunney long count? Would that be in?
Well, I hope so, because that was one of the greatest breaks I ever got. And the reason I say that, a lot of my friends who saw the fight still think I won it. As long as I can make them still think that, I say I'm a pretty lucky guy, because Gene's a pretty small fellow.
Under the scrutiny of today's technology and media, the myth would have been dispelled much earlier. 63 years after that celebrated incident, Tunney's stare at the referee was duplicated by Buster Douglas. The rule: when a contestant is knocked down, the referee shall audibly announce the count as he motions with his right arm downward, indicating the end of each second of the count. If the contestant taking the count is still down when the referee calls the count of 10, the referee will wave both arms, indicating that the contestant has been knocked out. The letter of the rule presents a paradox between the count of the referee and the count of some imaginary timepiece that neither he nor the timekeeper uses in the heat of battle. The 14-second knockout is commonplace. So Octavio Meyron was doing in Tokyo just what comes naturally to all referees. All right, we've examined the fight from every angle but a canvas cam, a camera from underneath the ring, and the corner cam. Douglas naturally had a happy corner. Tyson, curiously, a rather calm corner. Mike, did you know you were in trouble in this fight? Was your corner alerting you to the fact that you were falling behind and that you needed to do something fierce and dramatic?
Well, I never think about that. I never have that in my mind. Thinking about being behind. It was a tough fight, and I had to come back and fight hard.
Don't you think it's a corner's job to say, listen, Mike, you are behind and you got to step it up?
Yeah, they expressed that. I know it's just a matter of time I'll catch the guy. I was doing my best to come on, but as you say, we were clashing heads, and I was trying to face him on the other side because it was very difficult for me to see him from my left side.
Your corner only had a problem after the 8th round. What was the sense of it there? How did they deal with it?
After the knockdown?
Yes.
Well, they rinsed me down and questioned me to see if my faculties was in order. And after they found out that I was all right, then they went on and instructed me to continue fighting. They instructed me in a way to continue to fight.
Well, did they say, look, he's going to come out after you, you've got to buy time?
No, never. He came out after me every round. So it was, we knew where he was coming.
So you were going to find out real quick whether you could deal with him after the knockdown.
Right, right.
Mike, you've repeatedly stated you couldn't see out of that left eye. How much did it contribute, do you think, to the beating you finally took in the 9th and 10th rounds?
Well, regardless of my difference, one of them was close. I had another one. That's all that mattered to me. Taking the punches wasn't nothing.
But you couldn't see out of that eye, well, and he was hitting you with right hand.
Well, my heart was beating. That's all that mattered. So I just kept fighting.
Are you angry at all at the men in your corner for not treating the eye in the right way, in the accepted way? They didn't have an end swell to try to move it. They didn't have an ice bag.
You can't blame. I'm not trying. You can't. Anyone tried to say. You must have been thinking, reading those papers. People saying he had a corner that was, mature, immature. That's ridiculous. We went out there, and we lost to the guy that fought the best that night. But there was no reason. Regardless, so what? You got your eye closed. You got one eye. You have another one. Use that one. You fight to the finish, man. You can't make no excuses.
Perception out there is that you have surrounded yourself with some affable fellows who you like and who like you and make you feel good, but that they don't have the authority to drive Mike Tyson to the furthest point in training to really move him. Is that an accurate picture?
No, and that's a ridiculous insult on behalf of my intelligence. Because the people that I have involved in me, the people that I trust, and people basically my childhood friends, John Horn and Rory Holloway, you can't blame them. You can't look for somebody to blame or something, because they're young and they're inexperienced. They're on the job training.
No, what the charge is that you're at fault for not bringing more professional guys that could push you.
What, bring somebody that comes in like a week before the fight and train me or something? That's ridiculous. Well, that's ridiculous. The people that I'm with, I'm very comfortable with. It's just that out of 37 fights, I had 37 good nights, and at the 38th, I had one bad night. There's no means, no doubt in my mind, regardless of his decision, he's running around, running off with his mouth saying he's going to fight, make me wait, or the manager make me wait, he'll fight. Regardless of who he fights, I'm going to get my title back, regardless. If he fight Holyfield, and hopefully I'm going to get it back from Holyfield, regardless.
Buster, we've talked about Mike's conditioning, yet you were sick for a week and a half before the fight, and you're never famous for being in top condition. How did that affect you?
Well, it had no effect, I guess. I went out there and fought the best fight I could. Like I said, I signed the fight for the heavyweight championship. It's a dream
Weren't
come
you
true.
taking penicillin and other drugs?
I was taking penicillin and antihistamine and some mouthwash to gargle from my throat because I had inflamed my throat was swollen also. So I was a bit under the weather also.
But the fight pumped you up so much that it didn't affect you at all?
Well, I fought to the best of my capabilities. I got out of what I had.
When all the punches are fired, sometimes the real firing is just starting. A lot of questions were answered and answers questioned after Tyson Douglas, or to put it in its post-fight frame of reference, Douglas Tyson. Other questions to consider. Should a fighter who has been so thoroughly beaten as Tyson was take an immediate rematch? Is anyone considering that? And what of promoter Don King? Ringside observers were so mesmerized by the action in the ring that they didn't notice King immediately and desperately making a protest to Jose Suleiman of the WBC after the 8th round knockdown. He still wasn't sure that Tyson could pull the fight out, so he would try to save his title outside the ring. His motives were revealed in a choreographed post-fight press conference.
Everybody is seeing the facts, and the facts are irrefutable and incontrovertible.
A public outcry erupted. King and Tyson were seen as alibiing losers. The commissions reacted by finally recognizing Buster Douglas as the undisputed champion, but only after two of the three, the WBA and the WBC, killed some of the joy of the upset by at first withholding the claim. Finally, when they arrived in New York, Tyson and King conceded the title.
There's never been a question from our side as to who the heavyweight champion of the world was.
And I respect the fact that the new champion won the title. But only thing I'm saying, I wouldn't want the title on a change decision, you know what I mean? You win the title in the ring, you lose it in the ring, I believe. I'm just saying that Mike's not going on the deep end, he's not discouraged. The only thing I ask for is just a rematch, that's all. Simple as that. Once I get a rematch, I'll take care of everything from there. That's all I'm asking for as a champion.
And what about the brouhaha surrounding the Tyson cornermen past and present? Ex-trainer Kevin Rooney, fired by Tyson, ripped his unsuccessful successors. But Tyson gave a loyal vote of confidence to co-trainers Aaron Snow and Jay Bright. An issue of their competence is why they used a bloated ice bag for the swollen eye. Today, the end swell is the accepted piece of hardware to lessen the puffiness which causes the eye to close. But don't expect changes in Tyson's corner. When the fight was over, I noted that if you have a secretariat, you don't put any jockey on him, you get the best. Because even great athletes occasionally need help to get out of trouble, which Tyson definitely was in. Here with us to discuss that trouble and his corner and other aspects of the fight are Gil Clancy, the boxing commentator for CBS in Madison Square Garden, a former trainer and manager and promoter, and Angelo Dundee, who also has spent 1,001 nights in corners. Gentlemen, you were watching the fight, you saw the corner work. Did it keep Mike Tyson from having a chance to retain his title?
Well, the biggest fault that I found with the corner, technically, is the fact that they didn't have an end swell. If you don't have an end swell to control that swelling, you're going to have problems. Then they tried to do it with an ice bag, and what they forgot to do, when you have an ice bag, you pack it tight with ice. But when it's there, air gets in it, and water, the ice melts. So what you have to do between each round, you have to unscrew the top and take the water out so that you have a real tight fit when you put that ice up against that swelling and try to work it out. You know, end swell is not that newer thing. Before end swell, we used to use a silver dollar. And I was always more effective in a corner because I'd always have that silver dollar. This guy couldn't go for more than $half a buck.
You were setting us up there, Gil. Angelo, 9th and 10th rounds, Tyson caught a lot of punches because his eye was closed, yet he still had enough power to have knocked him down in the 8th. Did he still have a chance to win that if his eye wasn't as bad?
I don't think the eye was that big a deal, really. I don't think it actually closed. The only comment I got to make about the eye, that it was just whatever he had, that abortion he had in the corner, he just held it against the eye. Well, you don't get a swelling out of an eye if you don't move it away from the eye. That was not enough. We used ice bags much longer than before we used end swell.
Do you think that he was alerted clearly enough to the trouble he was in and motivated to go out there and do anything about it.
Well, you know, Angelo in the fight when Sugar Ray Leonard fought Tommy Hearns the first time, I have to give Angelo all the credit in the world because he told Ray Leonard, "You're blowing the fight, son." Nowadays, these guys are afraid to talk to the fighters. They're afraid to make the fighter angry at them. They forget what their job is. They're his friend, his uncle, or his confidant, whatever, but they're not guys that are motivated. Sometimes you have to use different psychology, but you have to do something to wake a guy up.
Haven't you slapped a champion of the world around in the corner?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. Sometimes you look at a fighter, and he's looking at you, and he looks like he's hypnotized. He's not paying a bit of attention. He's going like this with his head. But really, he's not paying attention, and you have to get his attention. And with Emil Griffith, when he won the welterweight championship, I saw he was that way, and I gave him a little slap, and it woke him up, and next round, by luck or whatever, he went out and he scored a knockout. But you have to do different things to motivate fighters. You just can't let it go round after round at the same pace if you're losing.
Angelo, outside of Douglas's relatives and close friends, you're the only one I know on the planet who gave him a real chance to win this fight. Why?
Had the credentials, had the right guy behind him. Not too many people knew John Johnson. I co-managed a fighter with John Johnson. I know what type of individual he is. He had the motivation. He's a go guy, John Johnson. And I knew Douglas, strong, tough, 6'4", good left hand, mobility. Got motivated by John Johnson. There's different folks for different strokes. You were talking about the corner job. Snow was a competent guy. But you know what was wrong? He worships at Tyson's shrine. I don't worship my fighters. I'm there to try to ad-lib something. I never know what the heck I'm going to do. In fact, you know, and sometimes I've used some stuff, you know, that they beat me out a little bit, but you do whatever you got to do to get your fighter up. And the one time when I saw Tyson in the corner and his head was down, I blew my stack. Because I'd have told him, "Get your stinking head up, you're a world champion." Because that would have blew my stack.
Was Mike Tyson in shape in your judgment? Can you see?
Well, you know, I think Mike Tyson, his weight was down. He was 220 pounds. But you can train for 2 months or 3 months, but it's what you've been doing for the last year or so. And I think a lot of Tyson's loose living caught up with him on that night.
Let's go to a rematch. Forget the money. The man has just taken a beating. You're his trainer. Do you want him to get back in the ring with the same guy who just gave him a beating 4 months or 6 months later?
Well, you know, Mike Tyson has a lot of pride, and, you know, he did show a lot of courage in that fight, because even when he had no legs, he was still throwing dangerous punches. But I don't see what the hurry is myself, unless he figures he's never going to get another shot at the championship of the world. And again, Mike Tyson is going to be fighting under a disadvantage now that he always had a tremendous advantage with intimidation. He was the greatest fighter on the world. Nobody could beat him. Iron Mike Tyson, and I've always said he's not iron. He's made out of flesh and blood. All that stuff came to pass. When he goes in the ring next time, it's going to be more even because the other guy's not going to have that much respect for him.
What happens in a rematch, Angelo?
I think Douglas wins unless it's a complete turnabout in every which way of Tyson.
What do you think?
I would have to say that and it's, even as they say in this fight, even at the very end of the fight, Mike Tyson was throwing punches with bad intentions. You have to give him credit for that. Had a lot of heart. But unless he lands the big one and gets Buster out of there, I think Douglas will beat him again.
Thank you very much, Gil Clancy and Angelo Dundee. If a Chicago alderman outwitted Gorbachev or Lafayette High School crushed the 49ers, Buster Douglas' victory would still top them all. So what does the future now hold for the heavyweight division? Douglas is in a position to dictate. He has already dictated that there won't be a quick rematch. And what about top contender Evander Holyfield? It'll take a check with a lot of zeros on it to get him to step aside.
My goal is to be the heavyweight champion, like I said. And, you know, I looked at Douglas. Douglas is a very smart fighter, and I have to prepare myself to fight Douglas. That's the man that I have to fight.
Until Don comes to me and says to me, "Shell, I'd like to do something because I have a match, or I have a tentative match, or I'm planning to make a match," I'm sticking with the position that we're the next challenger. If he comes to me and says to me at that point, "I can make a deal with Buster Douglas and I can do blah, blah, blah," if blah, blah, blah makes sense, Dan and Ken Sanders and I will talk about it. If not, we're going to look to fight Buster Douglas.
So what and when will it be? So Mike Tyson wants an immediate rematch, but should he? Now that he's been exposed as a mere vulnerable human, will he be as domineering in the future? And can Buster Douglas sustain a level of excellence that is new for him? Mike, I sense a kind of agitation on your part that Buster Douglas and his manager are now talking about not wanting to fight in June, maybe wanting to fight in September, maybe fighting Holyfield first. What's that make you feel?
Well, you know, I mean, I'm just saying basically as a fighter, when I was champion, I didn't discriminate. I fought anyone you put in front of me. And I gave him an opportunity when he really didn't, wasn't a mandatory contender. But, I mean, I think it would only be right for him to do the same. But then again, I mean, if he figures he doesn't want to and he wants to fight Holyfield, you know, regardless, you know, I mean, let him do what he feels is better.
And what do you feel, Buster?
It's not up to me, actually. You know, it's what the best offer. That's up to Don King and John Johnson. So whoever they come up with, then I'll fight. I was only speaking of Holyfield after the title fight because he was supposed to fight the winner.
He's the #1 contender.
The #1 contender. So if he wants to step back and let Mike fight me, then it doesn't matter. I'll fight whoever.
Are you concerned that if you were to go into the ring with Mike again and lose, that people would say you were a fluke?
No, you can't consider that fight a fluke because it went 10 rounds. I got up off the canvas. I was winning the fight, and then I won the fight. I mean, it's different if it was like a one-shot, one-punch knockout, you know, a punch coming out of the blue and landing, but I was dominating the fight.
Mike, again, as a student of history, you know that Joe Louis didn't fight Max Schmeling again for 2 years after he took a beating. Muhammad Ali didn't fight Joe Frazier again for 3 years. What is the rush? The fight won't go away, will it?
Well, it won't go away, but, you know, I just want to get in there. Let him know he's just holding in, I mean, a temporary residence, that's all.
Is it hard to be without the title?
Hey, you know, I mean, when you really think about it, you know, I've been successful, you know what I mean, and it's been very rewarding, but, you know, this is the business. I like the title. More so, you know, the money is great, and the rewards of what the title brought is great. But, you know, I want to give my performance. Out of the whole fight, the only thing I was disappointed in, I wasn't disappointed in losing, you know what I mean, because that's part of the fight business. I understand the business. The only thing I was disappointed in was just my performance. And, you know what I mean, the fight Buster fought a great fight. I was just only disappointed in my performance.
Do you feel it's in your best interest? You've seen fighters after a tough, really hard fight, that it might not be a good idea to come right back, that it might be an idea to sit back and wait.
Please, spare me.
Spare you what?
Yeah, I doubt that happening.
Well, that's the way a fighter should think about it. Buster, what have been your moves? I noticed that when you came to New York, you were originally supposed to stay in Donald Trump's hotel, but your manager didn't want you to stay there because he didn't want to create the impression that you were beholden to Trump for a future promotion. At the time, you were still not really all together with King. How independent are you going to be, can you be, in the situation you're in which Don King has options on your services?
Well, I can't really elaborate on that because that's not my end of the boxing. The only thing I do is fight. I fight whoever they put in front of me. You know, that's John Johnson. He's the one that's running. He controls all the business aspect of it. Then he confers them with me.
Mike, you've seen fighters after they lose their first fight and they're feeling that they're invulnerable, they start to get a little tentative and they go downhill. How would you guard against that?
Well, like you said before, you know, I'm a student of the game, please. I mean, these things happen. It's just temporary minor setback for a few seconds, a month or 2 months, whatever the situation is. And I mean, like you say, I'm in good enough spirits to fight today. I mean, I feel great. You know what I mean? And about people reading the same, I mean, by no means me and Don King, you know, I'm just getting off the subject for a minute, are collaborating to do anything diabolical to take any titles. I mean, all that's, you know, bullshit enemies, you know what I mean? We just was here, we had a team, once it's my advisor, Team Tyson, you know what I mean? And his business is to look after my situation at that particular moment. But for all means, nobody tried to look at the fact, like you see, he got the title, you know what I mean? And for as long as he has it, regardless, you know what I mean, he's happy until the time comes we fight again.
Buster, can you sustain a level of excellence that you have never achieved before?
Yes. Yes, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Does it give you a new sense of who you are as an athlete?
Yeah, well, yes, it does. I know I can do it. It's not something that I was shocked. I was fighting over my head. I was fighting within James Douglas. I was just the best came out of James Douglas. I was up for the fight, and I'll always be up for the fights. Now being heavyweight champion of the world, undisputed.
Mike, you were perceived before this fight as invincible, Frankenstein, a monster. Now you're looked upon as human, someone who bleeds, who falls when he's hit often enough. Is that a plus for you in some way?
You know what I mean? From what I never believed my news clippings. You know, you guys read. You know, I basically knows who I am. And my basic main concern is that he fought a good night. But I know I'm the best fighter in the world still to this day. And if he feels he is, he's going to have to prove it again. Unless he wants to run off and fight Evander.
Buster, you're a hero now. Can you handle being a hero? How has it been?
It's been great. I came home to my house was just decorated. The neighbors had decorated my home with balloons, signs, champ country. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Buster. Thank you, Mike, for both coming in here to tell us more about that remarkable night in Tokyo last week. Do you get the feeling they're still not best friends? But money doesn't just talk in prize fighting, it shouts, it screams. So it's almost certain there'll be a rematch this year. If I managed Buster Douglas, I'd say to him, whoopee, we're going to make so much money, our grandchildren will be able to retire on it. But let's not rush into anything. Don't let the money men stampede us. Now you're a hero. Let's kick back for 6 months and enjoy it. And this is exactly what his manager, John Johnson, is saying to him. If I were managing Mike Tyson, however, I'd take a different tack. I'd say to him, Mike, you just took a beating. I think you'll beat him up next time. But if you get another punishing fight, or if you happen to lose again, it could be fatal for your career. You're still only 23. Let's not rush into this. Relax for a few months. Go back to the gym, take a couple of fights, and then we'll get the title back. Be that as it probably won't be, two athletes in the purest form of competition gave us a jolt of inspiring theater. A seemingly indestructible force, probably overconfident, was brought to his knees by an underdog galvanized by opportunity and personal tragedy to fight the fight of his life, which reminded us with savage eloquence that if there's a skinny man trying to get out of every fat man, there's also a hero trying to get out of every ordinary man. For Jim Lampley, Sugar Ray Leonard, and the HBO staff, I'm Larry Merchant.
There's a right hand uppercut and down goes Douglas. As suddenly as that.
Can he beat the count?
He got a little overconfident. Got a little loosey-goosey. Still wobbly. Let's see what Mike can do to finish. And the bell ends to save Buster Douglas at the end of round 8.
Oh, the uppercut.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
It's over.
It's over. Mike Tyson has been knocked out.
Unbelievable.
Say it now, gentlemen. James Buster Douglas, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
Be sure to join us for our next telecast of World Championship Boxing, a unification fight between two champions. Julio Cesar Chavez takes on Meldrick Taylor, live Saturday, March 17th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on HBO. The executive producer of HBO Sports and the producer of Tyson versus Douglas is Ross Greenberg. Tonight's telecast was directed by Mark Payton. The replay producers were Rick Bernstein and Michael J. Whalen. The feature producer was Dave Harmon. The associate producer is Brian McDonald. The assistant to the producers were Kendall Reed and Kirby Bradley. The production manager was Russ Gabay, and the technical supervisor, George Wenzel. This has been a presentation of HBO Sports, the network